Alrighty, welcome to Tales from the Progbox, episode 2. We have our panel here, Derek,
Nick.
and I'm James, and today we are talking about Mike Oldfield's debut album, Tubular Bells.
A great album, in my opinion.
I think you mean the theme from The Exorcist.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
true.
you mean
Yeah.
the Amarok.
It's only known for it being the theme from The Exorcist.
Mike Oldfield peaked with Tubular Bells, to be quite honest.
See, that's where I disagree.
Okay, so go ahead. Yeah.
He obviously peaked at Omadon. Let's just say that.
He obviously peaked at Amarok.
See, what I was trying to do yesterday was I have 3 copies. I have 3 Mike Oldfield copies on vinyl. I have Tubular Bells, Hergus Ridge, and Omadon, and I was trying to go and listen to them all. And I got halfway to Hergus Ridge, and I'm like, oh no, I got distracted.
Marathoning them?
Yeah, I was gonna marathon them. I was having a fun time. But I think in terms of like, it always changes. I either really like Tubular Bells or Omadon. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, it's just between the three, to be honest.
Because those are like the big 3.
Definitely, yeah. And then you have like the stuff that comes in later, like Crises.
Yeah.
Crises and Platinum. I think that was in 79 or 78 or
And
something.
then you get like Tubular Bells 2 and 3 and all this other stuff.
The Millennium Bell.
The Division Bell.
We don't talk about that. But
We don't talk about Pink Floyd around here, boy.
anyway, this album has a lot of, I guess, sentimental value to me. It's the first record I ever bought.
It's a great starter record to get. Plus, it's really easy to get too, I'd say.
Yeah, I found it for like $5 at a half price books.
Hmm. Yeah, I found my copy at a Goodwill in Maryland. I'm like, oh, because usually whenever I go there, I usually find like classical records, and all of a sudden I just find Tubular Bells. I'm like, oh, okay, and it's an all right condition. It's kind of dusty, but it plays all right. I listen to it a
I
lot.
mean, you could argue that Tubular Bells is like modern classical music.
I consider it a modern classical piece of just music. But it's just with rock instruments.
Exactly, it's a rock instrumentation.
It's the most classical that classical influenced prog got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have stuff like ELP where it's like rock with like a classical influence, but this is like classical with a rock influence almost.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's you don't really notice it at first, but there's no drum kit.
Except for the Canadian section.
Yeah, that's right too.
The way he arranges it is so that there's not really any like there's nothing that the drum set not being there leaves out. It's not missing.
Yeah, but it's like it's very like you don't really notice it's not there, even though there's like guitars and pianos and keyboards.
It's because there's so many different layers that fill like the rhythm that the drum section would have.
Yeah, true.
Like at least in the beginning, like you have harsh like organ chords.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the little
like all the different arpeggios throughout it.
I just love the flow that this album has. That just flows one right into the other, and you don't even notice it half the time.
That's like the hard thing when you talk about it is like you can't really be like, okay, there's this song. This song is like you got Tubular Bells. Yeah, it's all one really fluid piece.
Also, one guy plays the majority of the instruments too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a one-man orchestra, pretty much.
And don't forget, he recorded this all when he was 19 years old.
Yeah.
Man, that makes me feel so inferior.
All you need is like a whole lot of instruments and a whole lot of talent. Then you can make your own Tubular Bells.
I mean, there's people nowadays that are like pretty much one-man bands that they're like the modern-day Mike Oldfield equivalent, like Jacob Collier.
Yeah, like you could say like, Mike Oldfield paved the way for like, the modern day Tame Impalas with, Kevin Parker playing all the instruments on his albums.
And it's a funny coincidence, they actually look similar.
Yeah, that if you ever get a chance, look at a picture of a young Mike Oldfield compared with Kevin Parker. The similarity is striking. It's that long-haired, bearded look.
Well, I guess we should start off with the music on the album.
We all
Starts out with that iconic glockenspiel and organ intro and piano, of course.
and for a while that I only knew that one part of Tubular Bells just because of The Exorcist.
Everybody does.
Yeah, basically.
And that bass line that comes in is great.
That's the thing I noticed. Like Mike Oldfield is like a very accomplished bass player. Like he makes a lot of good bass riffs.
Well, he started out as the bassist for Kevin Harris.
Yeah, but he does like really really nice bass stuff on all of his albums.
Yeah, definitely. On that video of them playing at the BBC, like he's pretty much playing the bass the entire time.
Yeah, because he's really good at it. He's got the knack for that bass.
Okay, I'm so sorry about that.
You alright?
Yeah, I got face found. I'm like, shit.
Oh no.
My friend is like, wants to like talk. I'm like, sorry, I'm eating lunch.
That's awkward.
Okay, where do we leave off?
We left off at the beginning part, but then we're just gonna go into the next section where it's like the guitars, the more prominent guitars and mandolins come in with the synth bend.
With the pitch bend.
Yeah, that I really like.
That pitch bend is one of my favorite parts. Where it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that theme might be one of my favorites in the piece.
I was a couple nights ago when I was up at my friend's house, I put on the BBC performance of Tubular Bells, and like we got to that part, and like I was like, this is really good. For some reason, I was just like, I don't know why. This is like great.
There's some noise in there. It's like when there's a pitch bend, there's like a kind of like a shimmer almost noise at the end of it. But it's real interesting.
His mandolin work on top of that on this album is amazing.
The work is amazing, but like throughout it, the mandolin really stands out.
I agree.
It's because he's got such a weird technique.
Oh yeah, especially when it comes to like his guitar playing. He as far as I know, he doesn't use a pick that much.
No, it's a lot of really weird finger picking.
It's just so surprising that basically Mike Oldfield learned everything he knows about guitar by himself, and he's so accomplished by this point in his life. Because he didn't.
Think about it, like it's the 60s, and you have a guitar and a lot of free time on your hands and no internet. It's like, what do? You just learn guitar.
What do? You make Tubular Bells. That's what the kids did for fun back in the day.
Tubular Bells.
Well, then after that section, you go into the double speed guitar stuff.
Ooh, yeah. Which is interesting how all the different instruments that were there in the finale of part one are all kind of featured throughout the first half.
Yeah, I think that's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be like what's it called? Like a
reprise.
Yeah, like at the end of something.
Like a credit?
Like a musical or something like that. Everyone bows.
Oh, like a grand
a curtain call.
Yeah.
Like a curtain call.
Exactly, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'll get to this point later, but it's like, I feel like when you listen to side one and then side two, there's just so much momentum that's lost when you get on the side two.
I like this is skipping ahead a lot, but I love the opening in this side two.
Oh, I mean it's good, but like there's just so much momentum that's just like it comes to a slower pace. There's just so much tension on side two. I wonder
how it would work if you reversed to the sides and played side two first.
I don't think that would work.
Yeah, because it ends with Sailor's Hornpipe, but I don't think that would end side one as well.
That's true.
And that's another point I want to make. The fact that side two is so tense and like it's just full of tension, and then just ends with this like jolly Sailors tune is amazing.
That's the perfect ending.
It is, because it's like you're just so tense listening to it. Like you just got done with like the whole ambient part and then the caveman part, and then it meanders for a little bit, and all of a sudden it just goes like, oh, Sailor's Tale, do 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 do, and then you're like, oh, you know, like it's humorous that like you've just been feeling so tense this whole time, and all of a sudden it just breaks out into like Jolly Roger song, you know.
Well,
It's
he does
fitting
have.
because Mike Oldfield's not taking himself too seriously.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think he ever really has.
Like, it's, if you don't really know about it, it sounds kind of like this pretentious modern classical album.
It's funny to me. I don't know.
It gives like a little bit of a character to it.
Yeah. I think it's a great way to end the album.
But yeah, going back to where we were on side one,
With the double speed guitars.
double speed guitars.
Double speed guitar.
Mandolin.
Speaking of guitars, I think one of my favorite sounds on the album is the direct injection, like distorted electric guitars
Yeah, it's
that
such
appear all throughout the album.
it's a very raw sound.
Mm-hmm. And it's like so. It's the way they mix it is it's so upfront in the mix, but it's not loud.
Yeah, it's very in your face.
Mm-hmm. But it's never like, ooh, this is too loud. It kind of it's open. It's like barren in the open, but it's not like overbearing.
Yeah, of course. That's how I feel about a lot of the guitars in this in general.
Mm-hmm. Everything in it, it's like a proper classical piece. Like everything in it has its spotlight, and it's all about like the balance between like the melody, the counter melody, the like the backing stuff.
The backing stuff, yeah, like
Because I feel like some albums they just like mix like, oh, guitar up front, bass kind of in the back, drums, you know, like also loud. It's like this is like really mixed and balanced well.
yeah, like the bass throughout this album is pretty. It varies a bit.
Here's the thing with the bass on Tubular Bells. It is loud. On my
Yes.
setup, at least, like
I
even
feel
on the
like
vinyl
it's
copy, the
really
bass.
loud in some parts, but it's also really quiet in some parts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like when it like how it like sneaks in the beginning.
yeah, and I think that's mostly that doesn't come from the volume itself. I think most of it's just from his playing.
Mm-hmm. It's very not I'm trying to think of it. It's very
Dynamic.
dynamic. Yeah, he has a lot of attack. It's loud.
And also the acoustic work is just incredible. Like,
Yeah, there's one part in there where I can't remember where it is. I was listening to it last night where he's playing acoustic and he hits like a complete like wrong note or like a really loud twang.
I know
There's
he
a lot
does.
of
I know he does that in the finale with the double speed guitar.
yeah. That's also one too. I like how there's like just little mistakes in it, like little things to give a character.
Well, I think that's also because he was in a big rush to finish the album.
Yeah, it does fit though. It's like Bill Bruford said, how he likes mistakes in his music because it shows that people are applying it, and as he says, like risks are being run.
But he's a very like improvisational player.
But are they really mistakes, though? Maybe it's part of the music. Take a
It
little
could be. You never
philosophical.
know.
You know, like, is it really a
Yeah,
mistake?
it's like there'll be like a weird note in some kind of like double tracked part, or like just like a really harsh like twang.
Yeah. Get a little philosophical. Yeah.
The, there's a part in there with when there's a double bass, the boat double bass.
Oh, that's what that sound is. It sounds so
Yeah.
weird. It's like
Well,
really really
on the-
low, almost.
Yeah, on the original mix, there's like a phaser effect on there.
Yeah, I think that's the one.
Yeah, it's like a phaser effect on the double bass.
It's a really kind of heavy, swampy part in there.
Yeah, it sounds amazing on
Oh, I
the
love
record.
it. That's another section I love.
But after that, you go into the blues part.
Oh yeah, I like that section. I mean, I feel like I say this about every section, but I like that as well. How it goes into that, like the really clean guitars, and then the distorted guitars, and then into like the honky tonk piano. Just the way like it kind of blends through all these different instrumentations.
That's another point I like to make about this section is that like during like that like I think it's around that part it gets pretty heavy. Like with that riff where it's like dun 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 dun. That's like proto metal almost.
Well,
Yeah, if you look to the original like tape demo that he was proposing different labels, there's a lot more heavy sections. Like the first part with like the different pianos,
Yeah.
that's a lot shorter, and there's just like a really heavy like strum guitar section right after it.
It's also very lo-fi.
A little
Yeah,
bit,
the
yeah.
demo.
But I feel it fits the aesthetic of the album, where it's not like the most perfect recording, but it sounds decent enough that you know like exactly what's going on.
Yeah, you know, it's like, oh, it's some dude making it, but it sounds insanely virtuoso, dude.
Yeah, and that comes across really well. But
It
also on top
Yeah,
of that, during honky tonk section, um, he got the kitchen crew from the manor that he was recording in to sing that part.
that's who's doing that little
Yeah,
choir.
the hum part. Yeah,
Yeah, it's weird because it doesn't sound like a professional choir, but it still sounds good.
I think it's Oldfield on honky tonk and the choir thing on the choir.
Yeah, yeah. From there, you kind of go. Is that when you get to the acoustic bit right before
Well,
the?
that's when you get to the dun, 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 dun.
Oh yeah, that's kind of within that too. It's all that one big kind of segue between the different instrumentations.
Yeah, and then it goes into the dun 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 part.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and after that it does that melody always escapes my head. I completely forgot.
is it the part right before the come together finale?
Yeah, yeah,
I know what you're talking about.
yeah. It's very reminiscent of the melody after the introduction, but it's slightly different. Dun, 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 dun.
It's the reprise of the little I don't know, like I wish like we could have better ways to describe the sections instead of just going da na 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 na
Yeah,
na, you know.
I mean, there's like in the 2003 remaster, they have like sections included, but it's not like no one's gonna be like the blues part, you know,
well, you know the blues
ambient
part
part
just
number 4.
you know the blues part just by the fact like you hear blues.
Right, like some of the other sections. Like there's a couple parts that are identifiable by name, but there's like little melody sections that are like hard to define.
Oh yeah, definitely. Also, there's that acoustic bit right before the finale section, where
Yeah, he has a bunch of energy, like those last chords before the finale section when it gets really quiet, like the BBC version.
yeah, you can see his face getting all intense too.
Yeah,
And it's also the sound is very tense and dissonant.
yeah, it's that chord. I don't know where it's playing there, but it's very clashing and tense.
And then you get to the finale section. There's a bass line in 5/4 with
I will say
the
there's one of my only gripes with the album is I feel like he does a lot of dynamic changes really well, but going from the acoustic guitar to that bass part, like the really low, like it feels
yeah.
really disconnected.
I think that's a criticism in
That's
general
just
for the entire. That's a criticism in general for the album is that it's a little bit fragmented.
I feel like sometimes he pulls off the start transitions really well, and sometimes he doesn't.
And it goes into that bass line, the boom, 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 where it's in 5/4 with a guitar.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
weird part.
it's a good
I never
example of
noticed that, but now that you mention it, it's like, oh yeah, it is in 5.
yeah, example of polymeter being used in that context.
Yeah. But then you go through the theme. This was like the first part when I heard it that like really stuck with me.
Yeah, the da 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 da.
Yeah.
He had to play that bass line for 8 minutes.
I'm surprised he didn't just like record it and then just tape loop it,
Well, when you're playing it live, you'd have to do it just the whole way.
right?
That might be why he was so apprehensive to actually play it live, because it was like, oh,
Yeah, that's the
this is too
problem is
much.
like there's a lot of just repeating parts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's like no one wants to play the same bass line 8 minutes in a row.
and
that
there's
bass line that bass line's really challenging though.
Yeah. Or like you get it even in the beginning where it's that same piano melody like for like 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah,
And it all builds on top of each other, but it'd be a pain to play.
yeah, especially if you're the person that starts it.
Because you're playing it for a long time.
I believe it was Mike Ratledge from Soft Machine that played the intro on the BBC version.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that before to us.
It's like he got people from Henry Cow. You got Steve Hillage on there.
Yeah, the lineup on the BBC performance, even though it's just part one, is really insane.
Yeah.
They did a good job though on that performance.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Some of it like does seem kind of like we don't really know how to translate this well to a live performance, but they did all right.
Do you know what? Like, did you record on like 8-track or 16-track or?
I believe it was a 16-track recording.
That
I
would make
think.
sense.
I'm not too
Because
sure.
otherwise you'd have to bounce down like a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, he did. I'm sure he did. Let's see. I'm looking this up right now.
The last part is always my favorite, I think. Maybe my favorite part. It's either the finale of side one or the sailor's hornpipe at the end.
I think my favorite part is either the finale or Cave.
Yeah, same here actually.
The ending with the Tubular Bells.
It's just that build up. It's just so I don't know how to describe it. It's just so ethereal.
It's very almost like regal.
Yeah.
That melody is beautiful.
Mm-hmm. He must have I wonder if when he played it first he realized oh man, I struck gold with this.
Oh yeah, and it was also the first release on Virgin Records.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they basically almost not really, but they kind of made a record label for it.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's what they did because nobody else would release Tubular Bells mostly because it didn't have any vocals on it.
And then there's a famous story about how he's like, "Oh, I'll give you vocals," and then downs a bottle of scotch and shouts into the microphone, and that's our favorite part.
The backstory for that just makes it that much better.
I feel like that's kind of it's a really good album, but then when you learn about more of the story behind it, the manner, it gains more character.
Also, if you learn about his childhood and growing up, it's pretty tragic. Like how he his mom, she lied about having a miscarriage and she was sent away somewhere, and then she came back and it turned out that she didn't actually have a miscarriage. She had a kid with Down syndrome. And
oh, that's right.
And then she came back and she was a completely different person. It's
interesting. It's interesting how the album at the end of the first side reprises every instrument, even if you think oh, it's Tubular Bells, that's a big moment. But they're even the Tubular Bells are throughout the album in little subtle points.
Yeah, it's in one of the sections. I completely forget which section it's in.
It's funny.
I remember where it's in. It's in the bottom part.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. I don't know the name of the section, but I can sing it.
That's the only way you can really identify these sections, just by the main riff that they're playing.
Mm-hmm. Or the instrumentation.
Yeah, which goes back to another point I want to make, where it's I just love how riff based this album is. And it's not in the
you just got a handful of riffs and tied them all together.
Yeah, but it's not in the normal rock and roll riff type thing where it's just you play one riff and you go with it. But he does different things with the riffs as well. With the main theme of the Tubular Bells, first it's played right at the beginning in a minor key, but then they change it up and then they're playing it in a major key with different instruments, and it has a totally different texture to it. It's just changing it up.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful passage of music when they play the main theme in major on the piano.
I also love the way after that climax with the melody, it ends just with the acoustic guitar.
I'm not a huge fan of that. I feel it would have been just as good just fade it out or just let everything ring at the end. But the acoustic guitar is nice.
It's a good touch. I think it makes it a bit more, I guess, up close.
Personal, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine if the ending to side one was like the big finale, and then you have Sailor's Hornpipe.
I can see that.
Honestly, I feel like Mike spent most of his time doing side one, but I'm not gonna say that side two feels kind of not horned in, but like phoned in. But
It's
like it
interesting
seems,
because it's like side one is like the big piece, and then side two is the more up close and personal.
yeah, it's just a different section. Like it's a different mood and atmosphere.
Like when I first started listening to this album, part one was a lot more memorable than part two.
Yeah, I agree,
Oh,
but part
definitely.
two's
Yeah.
kind of grown on me.
Yeah, same here.
It's just that side two is more about building tension and just having a big build up.
I feel like side two is the highlight is obviously Caveman, but it all kind of builds up to Sailor's Hornpipe in a very strange way.
Yeah, you have the beginning, like minus the caveman section. It's a kind of dramatic, and there's some ambient stuff in there too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's very ambient. Like when I was listening to it last night, getting ready for the show, it's like, oh, there's a lot of just kind of like floating guitars and stuff in here.
This came out the same year as No Pussyfooting, where it was like one of the first like ambient guitar albums.
Oh yeah, was this 73?
Yeah, early
Yeah,
'73. That's another album we gotta do. No Pussyfooting.
oh, it's great.
Oh, that would be an interesting
How
one to kind of talk about.
how long can we talk about an ambient album? Let's see. Let's challenge ourselves.
As long as we can drag an ambient album out.
Just be like, well, yeah, Fripp's guitar playing is really good here. Yeah, it is. Well, it's really good in this section too. Well, yeah, it is.
Yep.
Brian Eno's keyboard work is really great here too.
Yep.
Totally played that one note for 10 minutes really well.
Man, so much sustain.
It's the Frippertronics.
It's the notes he's not playing.
One thing going back to the finale of part one is, and kind of also going back to how the album's mixed and balanced, the Tubular Bells at the very end just kind of like jump out.
Yeah, actually, there's a story behind that.
It's because he's playing them with a claw hammer.
Yeah, but on top of that, he wanted that to be the loudest thing on the album in general.
Yeah, I think that is the loudest thing.
Yeah.
Second being the direct injection guitars.
Yeah, and so in order to get the Tubular Bells to be like as loud as he wanted them, they had to turn the entire track down. and so the guys that were producing the album were worried that it wouldn't get played on the radio because of how quiet it was.
There's one time I tried to play Tubular Bells with like a car stereo, and the only two parts I could really hear without turning it up too much were those guitars and then the really loud Tubular Bells and just kind of shake at the end.
Yeah, I remember there was that documentary about the making of Tubular Bells, where they were all just kind of worried about it being played on the radio.
And Mike Oldfield's response was like, "Oh, they got a volume knob. They'll just turn up the radio." Like of course.
That's the way it really should be.
Yeah, and
they'll
then
just turn it up.
He put out the classic Mike Oldfield single.
Mike Oldfield single. That's just a reprise of the bagpipe guitar part, right?
I've never heard it, so I wouldn't know.
I think it's just a reprise of the bagpipe guitars.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I think they wanted to release something with him singing on it as an album. I mean, not as an album, as a single. But you know from Omadon that he's not the best singer around.
Well, he's all right.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Are you talking?
He fits the vibe of it.
Yeah, and it works in context on there, but I don't think if he sang on anything from Tubular Bells, it would have worked.
Are you talking about the on horseback part of Omadon?
Yeah, but they wanted him to release something with him singing as a single for Tubular Bells.
Oh yeah, makes sense.
Shoot, and then we're on to side two.
Kind of been interspersely talking about it, but we can now focus on it more.
Well, it starts out with those guitar harmonics, and kind of get the.
I love that section and like how the vocals like choir kind of like just like fades into it.
That part in general and some of the more ambient stuff reminds me more of Omadon.
Yeah, I can see that. Because Omadon is pretty ambient, but it's got more drive, I guess, to it.
Especially at the end of side one with the.
Oh, where you have the drums.
I'd say Almadon is a little bit heavier than Tubular
Oh,
Bells.
it is. It is.
Well, Tubular Bells is already very light in general.
Except for the more like heavy distorted guitar stuff.
Yeah. The mood fluctuates a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. Because like I said before, it's a lot more fragmented than Almadon.
I think by he knew what he was doing, but Tubular Bells works really well. Because I mean, it's my favorite out of the three.
He kind of perfected it with Hercules Surge and Almadon. Although I don't think he's really a big fan of Hercules Surge.
Yeah, it seems like it gets the least attention out of the three.
Yeah, and on that documentary, he just kind of skips over Almadon in general.
The documentary, the Mike Oldfield story, is kind of one-sided. It should just be called the Tubular Bells story.
See, yeah, I completely agree.
Because it's a comprehensive documentary about the making and origins of Tubular Bells, and that's it. Even though, like, Mike Oldfield has a lot more albums in his repertoire.
Like Cameron.
Amarok and the Voyager with that album cover with his shirt off.
The Tubular Bells 3.
The Millennium Bell.
Are we going to be talking about Crises in the future?
We should. I really like Crises.
Yeah, we should. I think we should do that. Even though it's not really a prog. It's more on the poppier side.
Side one is pretty proggy.
Yeah, but like it's also got your choice of 80s pop. It's good. It's good. I think it's good.
I mean, 90125 is technically prog, even though it's basically 80s pop.
Yeah.
Like Beat is pretty much prog, even though it's 80s pop.
Well,
those are
that's
episodes.
The King Crimson God.
Yeah, I feel like all the prog bands were still called prog, but they did a lot of poppy stuff in the 80s.
Well, I think the biggest, no, I wouldn't say offender, but the biggest like band to do that would be Genesis.
Yeah, it's like I call it more like prog by association because it's by like a prog band.
Well, except I think some of the stuff that Genesis did in the 80s was fairly proggy. You have like Mama.
You could say that on each of their albums in the 80s, they still had a very long prog song.
Oh yeah, like Domino.
Yeah, even like their most popular album has like a 10-minute prog song from the 80s.
Oh, I think we're getting a little bit off track, but
yeah, that's an episode for another day.
So then we get to the after the harmonics section, you get all the kind of the ambience. You go into the bagpipe guitar section where it's I think it's a double speed guitar. Where it's made to sound like a bagpipe. That part makes me not emotional, but it's just a very, very beautiful melody.
It's very invoking.
The whole album does that to me. It makes me nostalgic.
The bagpipe guitar section is something I always kind of forget is there until someone brings it up, but it's one of my favorite parts.
Yeah. And also on top of that, like harmonically, it's very interesting. You have the chord changes in there are very, I guess, kind of they're different than what you hear on the rest of the album.
Yeah, and then that ends up leading into Caveman, right?
Yeah, it does lead into Caveman.
Like all.
You have the drum fill. I think they changed it on the remix, where it just goes straight into the Caveman section. But on the copy that I have, it goes into drums for like a couple seconds, and then it just goes into Caveman.
On my version, you get like the really hard, like low piano chords. Then there's like the 8th note drum fill into the Caveman part.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. But we talked about this earlier, but he got drunk when they pressured him to sing on something, and so he goes ahead and just screams into the microphone.
He screamed so hard and so loud that his voice was shot for 2 weeks afterward.
That's crazy.
Like, I can't remember. I mean, I guess it was good because he was an instrumentalist. He wasn't a singer.
It's like prog, not even once.
and then they slowed it down, I think, on the tape.
Yeah, they slowed the tape down, but the backing track remained the same, I think.
Yeah, they sped up the tape so that he could scream into it, and then and then they slowed it down to the original speed. That
Yeah,
section was big.
because at one point it just sounds like he's just like howling.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that too. It sounds like a wolf howling.
It control how much it sounds like a wolf. It's crazy.
I think the fact that it's slowed down helps a lot.
Yeah, those guitars in that section are amazing.
Oh yeah, definitely. The really fast like guitar runs.
It's got a really
Yeah.
nice groove at that section.
What?
That the caveman section has a really nice groove in the drums.
Oh
There's
yeah.
one section in there where there's like that twinkling. I think it's piano, like the twinkling piano part, and then he's still.
Yeah.
It sounds like at the same time he's like confused, and it's so interesting.
No.
Oh yeah, he's like,
No.
Yeah, it's like like just this like when I listen to the picture, and there's just like some kind of little fairy like floating around him. It's just so interesting.
yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, after the caveman, it goes into
It goes into that like tension kind of part.
yeah, is it the ambient part before
Yeah.
the finale?
On the 2003 re-recording, they just have it listed as ambient guitars.
Yeah, I think that's like the biggest chunk.
Yeah, it's 5
Because side two overall feels much shorter than it is.
Well, technically it is shorter, but I know what you're saying. Like it feels short. It's only
It
shorter
feels
by like
like
2 minutes.
15 minutes, not like what 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's shorter in comparison to side 1.
But it's still pretty long for a side.
Oh yeah, definitely. Side 1's 25 minutes long.
I thought it was 27, but I may be wrong.
I think that might be on the minutes, but on my copy it says 25 minutes. And then on side 2 it says 23:50.
Yeah, it's only shorter by like 2 minutes. But it still feels considerably shorter.
I think the fact that you have ambient sections helps with that. Because with some ambient stuff, I think it's interesting enough to listen to, like intently listen to, but a lot of the time, I think people just kind of turn their mind off a little bit to ambient sections.
I feel like side one feels so much longer because there's so many more different themes in it.
Oh yeah.
Like in side two, you have the opening guitars, the bagpipe part, the caveman part, the ambient part, and the sailor's hornpipe, and those are like the big section.
Yeah,
but like on the first side, you have like a dozen different pieces.
It's a bit more. There's a bit more going on side 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of goes into more ambient territory. There's a lot.
Yeah, it's very
more,
relaxing.
More longer
until you get to Sailor's Hornpipe, that is.
Which I think is like one of the better parts of side 2 because it just breaks up. I don't know how to really describe it. It just like you listen, like it caught me way off guard and by surprise the first time I listened to it. I'm like, oh, okay, and then it just ends. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
It just gets faster.
Well, that was Tubular Bells. Yeah.
It's the perfect way to end like a very super serious album, just with like a little joke, funny, haha moment.
Have you heard the version where it's Mike Oldfield playing mandolin and Viv Stanchall is like walking around the band or talking?
Yeah, I've heard that before.
I feel like I might have preferred that on the album.
I can see that. I don't think they were. Is that just on the re-release?
Yeah, it's on the 2003. That has like all of the stuff.
Okay.
Excellent.
But yeah, in general, it's just. I think that in particular kind of shows off like how virtuosic of a guitarist he is.
He's great. Like I wish I had that much talent.
It starts off really slow and then it just gets even faster and faster until it just ends. It also started what was to become the Virgin Records thing, where it just kind of Virgin kind of just took off from there.
It actually lasted way until like the 90s, I think.
Yeah, after Tubular Bells in the early 70s, they kind of went more into the punk direction.
Yeah, I heard about Virgin way before I heard about Tubular Bells.
Yeah, like Richard Branson and the other guy. I didn't forget his name. Simon Draper. That's his name. They co-founded Virgin Records.
Can't forget
And then
about Virgin Airlines.
Yeah, and then you have like Virgin Galactic.
Are they still around as a record label anymore?
I'm not sure.
I think they
I
might
don't-
be.
They,
I'm not too
yeah,
sure.
they might be.
You have to look this up.
They might.
Yeah, they're still around.
Oh wow, interesting. I don't think Mike Oldfield's still on that label though.
I do not think so.
He's off doing his own thing. Okay.
What's that record label where that Tony Banks is on?
For which album?
Oh, just like his solo stuff in general.
Oh well, for his first, I think his first album was still on the famous Charisma label. And I think after that he was just on Atlantic with the rest of the Genesis guys.
There was one that was founded fairly recently where there's a bunch of like progressive rock people.
Oh, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I believe. Hold on. Oh well, we'll skip that for now.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, are there any closing thoughts you guys have about the album? Other than it's amazing.
I think the one thing that I kind of wish people would do more, and it's not like, no, like, not telling people what to do, but it's like, I kind of wish, like, that kind of, like, album format was still around, where it's just, like, a bunch of instrumental stuff that's more, like, riff-heavy based. Even though I feel like that kind of format would get kind of old, maybe, but, I actually I really like it.
It's unique in that sense. It has that kind of charm.
Yeah. Like, it's a different kind of album.
I don't know if I'd want that to become the trend in like the mid-70s.
Yeah, it really didn't, but like I think it's a really cool way of just presenting music, where it's just like one long song on two sides of an LP. That's more instrumental riff based and more experimental. So
I've always liked the idea of having a sidelong track, but having like two sidelong tracks is like even more interesting, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. He wasn't the first person to do it. Yeah, but like Thick as a Brick, but it's still really well done. You could argue Thick as a Brick is like 4 songs per side if you kind of divide it up.
you could say that it's many songs just piled into technically one song, so because of different sections.
Exactly.
Like you said, it's very riff based.
Yeah, like I feel like if I were to ever do something like that, I try to make it more like Mike Oldfield based.
Yeah, and
If I had enough talent.
That's what I want to go for if I ever do like two sidelong kind of things. Is just taking more of an Oldfield approach to it and kind of just make it kind of a bit fragmented, but also very cohesive at the same time.
Yeah.
Too bad I'm not talented.
Same.
It's hard to be as talented as Mike Oldfield.
Yeah. At
Right.
19 years old.
Any closing statements?
No, I think we've all said
Tubular Bells sucks. It's a horrible album.
I prefer Vibraphone.
You know what album's the best by Mike Oldfield?
Which?
Amarok.
Calling All Stations.
No,
Speaking of Genesis, next episode we're going to be talking about Selling England by the Pound.
No, actually, next episode we're talking about
the same
1989 by Taylor Swift.
I think you mean Digesting England by the Bound.
Digesting England by the Bowel.
Digesting Bingland.
Digesting England by the Dial.
We're going to be talking about Please Don't
Touch.
Well, please don't ask.
Alright, we will see everyone next week.
Fuck you guys, I hate all of you.
And as always, keep progging.
You guys all suck. I hate every one of you subscribers.
Yeah,
that was something.
We hate our subscribers. Don't donate to us on Patreon.
Yeah, we hate all of you. Support the channel.
Alright, bye.